There she is laughing again, of course. I mean, these are serious issues, right? You might not think they are, but of course there's plenty of evidence of people in Springfield talking about this. And also ABC, who are the sponsors of this particular debate, are known to be part of the mainstream media, which is very anti-Trump. Right, yeah. And they're basically saying to him, oh, we spoke to some city officials. There used to be a time in journalism when you didn't believe what you were told by city officials, you actually believed what you were told by the people of the town. That seems to have changed.
It's the same thing we see in this country as well, where people essentially try to ridicule anybody who raises legitimate concerns that people who are at the coalface of all of this experience in their daily lives, and to just dismiss outright the lived experience of people on the streets. I've seen footage of this happening in France as well. Right. Cats being skinned on the streets by people who come from Africa and so forth. This is not unusual, and yet, he's trying to be, they're trying to portray him this way. I think the Trump team have a legitimate, actually, point to make about the way that ABC were only fact-checking Trump. Right. They weren't applying anything, because Kamala Harris...
And they were questioning what he said far more than they were questioning what she said. Let's have a look at what she said about Donald Trump.
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about facts.
Interesting that she talks about being confused, given that Joe Biden is actually the president currently. And in fact, at one point, I don't know if we've got that clip, but we'll play it later, I'm sure. At one point, he says Joe Biden basically sleeps all day until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Why don't you wake him up and tell him there's a problem at the border? Because at the end of the day, there's a confused man. If you want to talk about world leaders laughing at other world leaders, I don't think they were absolutely not laughing at Joe Biden.
Well, also, yeah, you're absolutely right. And that last debate, of course, was the reason that he got kicked out.
Because everybody could then see how ridiculous it was.
But Kamala Harris has been confused for her entire duration as Vice President, too. She has no grasp of detail, no grasp of policy. That's why we haven't seen her giving any media interviews until this debate. But I thought this was a brilliant attack process by Kamala Harris, because she knows she doesn't understand policy in detail, so she
doesn't want to get
was
into
able
policy
to go for his weaknesses, which of course is his own ego. And you could see the way he was reacting there, getting him onto the defensive. She got the advantage over him, I think, in this debate by focusing on his weak spots, because he's incapable of not responding to personal attacks, which ate up into so much of his time that should have been spent attacking her. So actually, I think that was a very good strategy on her part.
Yes, interesting. Let's have a look at what Donald Trump had to say about how she was a supporter of his.
I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it.
I mean, there is some truth to that. I mean, look at what we've got here in Keir Starmer.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's an awful lot of parallels you can draw. Keir Starmer's actually going over to the US, I think, at the end of this week, presumably to see the Biden administration. But I wonder whether he will also see the Trump team as well, because if he's got any brains, he should. But of course, we know that the sort of Trojan horse of socialism, which is now running this country, was not sold as the Trojan horse of socialism. And the same goes for Kamala Harris. She's not talking about what left-wing policy she's going to reintroduce into America, because she knows that America doesn't really want that. But once she gets in, if she does get in, that's what will happen.
Yeah, second most left-wing voting record of anybody, Kamala Harris. Wouldn't be surprised if she was inspired by Keir Starmer's path to power, where, of course, he lied posed as a Corbynista to win over the Labour Party, become leader of the party. Then, of course, turned his back on them. Then sold us again a damp squib in what he was going to do. So it's a very effective policy.
Well, he was known, wasn't he, as Starmer Chameleon at one point. I think we might bring that one back.
Yeah, and I think Kamala absolutely knows that her great weakness is her left-leaning politics. Yeah. She's now come out in support of fracking and all these other issues.
Another weakness, of course, is Joe Biden. She actually said at one point, "I'm not Joe Biden." You know, which is a very clear message to the rest of the people of America that Joe Biden shouldn't be running the country anymore, should he?
Yeah, I mean, people actually forget sometimes he's actually still the president.
He's in charge.
He's been completely forgotten about.
Yeah, well, Donald Trump, I mean, we saw pictures of him on, he was on 3 holidays, I think, in a row, pictures of him sitting on a beach, seemingly kind of comatose, and that's the guy running the country. What's going on?
I mean, this debate was boring and dull and dreary, but I mean, yes, when you compare it to that last debate, I think at least we have some more dynamism here and a chance to actually...
And also, the trouble is, as well, the format that they use, and they always use the same format now. It used to be different, where one's not allowed to interrupt the other because they can't be trusted to actually behave like grown-ups. That's ridiculous, because it's not really a proper debate. It's a series of statements and counter-statements, which is not the same thing.
Well, just remember those great barbs during the Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump,
of course.
You'll be in jail. All those wonderful moments, that energise the discussion and energise people. Like, at the end of the day, 98% of Americans know how they're going to vote. This comes down to 6 swing states. A few thousand voters in those states are going to decide this election. I think Kamala Harris has done a much better job than Joe Biden, even though neither
by not being Joe Biden.
By not being Joe. Neither Trump nor Harris had a knockout blow here. But I think it's much more difficult now for Trump than it would have been, and I don't think he's really managed to understand the strategy to take down Kamala Harris.
Funnily enough, I was watching a statement by Robert Carville, the great sort of political strategist who got Clinton elected effectively, and he said last night before the debate, Trump is walking into a trap here because everybody's telling him how useless Kamala Harris is going to be, and she's not going to be useless. And I think that's possibly the mistake that the Republicans made, because she wasn't useless. All the stuff that we've seen her saying in the past made her look mad and crazy, but last night she didn't look mad and crazy, but that doesn't make her a better candidate. It just means that she's not as bad a candidate, I suppose, as we maybe thought.
Well, she's been curated and trained. She's had so much time to prepare for this. I think if she did become president, you'd see the disaster on a daily basis when she has to react quickly to events as they happen.
Well, she started doing the sort of thing that Keir Starmer's doing. Punishing pensioners, letting lags go free into Lamborghinis, into champagne-popping corks all over the place.
Not just that, I just think also her ability to respond to things in the moment, because here, of course, she's been able to be rehearsed and trained in all of this, and people are getting, again, a false prospectus here. They think, actually, she's much more in command of things than actually she really is. And on Donald Trump's front, I think he was a bit too confident going into this. I think he should have been better prepared.
Maybe they should do another debate. Maybe, she's already said she doesn't want one, but her people are now saying, should we have a second one? Fox was offering that. Let's see if that happens.